but I'm not sure what the sheet should do.
Neither am I. It was here when I got back from being away. And what else can the sheet do? That sheet
can express its sheetness through separation of you and the blanket.
Me and the what?
The blanket.
The what?
Blanket.
What blanket?
The cover.
Blister, boot, cut. Jan knows his waist size of the jeans his order should fit, and the hem is cuffed. Pulling them on, the hem over one ankle reads "Kiss the Future" in orange bubble paint. They match his leg length a bit too well. There's a weird crotch, shit-faced defiance and insouciance in wearing clothes that maybe don't fit, that play with proportion and suggest the body is just interchangeable, but they're flush to his hip, and the seat cleaves up his crack. Jeans with wear will individuate. The classic worker commodity, indigo fetish object molded to the contour and shaped like a second skin. Entropy of wear rendered visible, a braiding, frayed, thin, odorous, stretch of hands in pockets, the bulge of keys, possessions, the lump of a phone, dinner molded like a blister pack. There are ridges and crescents down the side seam, a landscape buckling from tension, tectonic plates climbing against each other, spreading the leaves going in front of the road. Cheng thinks often of how detectives identify the bank robber by that same barcode and pair of JCPenney jeans in his hair footage. Jeans were supposed to handle him and covered his like skin or barcodes do. I'm beginning to distrust the fashion. In a vague performance of sustainable practice, Jan only buys second-hand designer fashion, spending hours scouring websites and only purchasing when a good piece is below resale value. Jan has received a new pair of jeans in the mail, Walter Van Berenboim's W&LT, wild and lethal trash. They've come from a collector in Antwerp, and the denim has strangely pilled in sections, thick stitching shapes the thigh. They're a cute stuff. Jan wants her friend scratch up a wood varnish with a hard found the ends of his Prada jeans after rolling around. Antique roadshow. Jeez. Jan unbuttons the fly and pushes down the waistband. The thighs of the indigo denim cling to his skin. So, the interior of Jean is a single petal flared around his upper thigh. He stares at his own ass in the mirror. Jan wears the underwear of a child. Stretched, thin against the sheets, worn. If you want to imagine Jan's butt, it's got a bit of a shape, but not too much. How would a detective describe it? His hips are his widest part. He motors his gait from the thigh, but thinks he has a core carriage. There is an elastic mark on his hip, but the leg holes of the child's underwear are stretched loose. Grey areas of skin. Pumice exfoliation. Dead skin enough for a twin corpse. Jan leans a knee on mattress phone. The message of his phone flashes off a message on the home screen. A message will try. Reads. As I've mentioned, having sex is always new to me. And I'm less its star than an inspector who assigns himself the case, and who is not so much assigned as stranded there, and every bed is like an open road, and I some clueless rabbit lingering in danger's path because it needs the warmth. The text and message following trails and fields of emojis from Travis comes as no surprise. Travis is always claiming to gesture to quotation, to becoming. Jan thinks about the proclaiming of newness, the excitement and the horror of a virgin. Jan often feels virginal, or amateurishly play-acting at sexual experience. It's overwhelming to try to think while intimate, so he just performs. Jan sends Travis some of his most used emojis, non sequiturs. Travis cites Dennis Cooper. Jan sends a picture of his ass and his consigned jeans. The Sisterhood of the Travelling Pants is a fiction and film about a pair of second-hand jeans, denim, capable of fitting and flattering a group of 4 young women who have different body shapes and sizes. The book and the movie, to Jan, who hasn't maintained any friendships from the schoolyard, represent some ideal of becoming the body of friendship, legs that are intertwined with the genes that guard them, a possession that witnesses significant action decreed binding by a group that defines itself to the outside world by their difference. Jan is suspicious of the tendency to form a definition of humanity based on physically diverse people sharing uncritical emotional values, the hysteric performance of care between friends. Jan likes the moment in the sequel when the pants are lost, and then the friends reproduce a drawing of the jeans without being shaped on their legs. Fuck reproduction. Fuck Hollywood emotional maturity. Negotiate your own cause. That's what Travis says. What can Jan identify with? It passes the Bechdel test? The girls of the Sisterhood chart their middle-class privilege and their mobility. Tibby is aspiring to documentary film. A movie? Only boring? But this functions as a metafallacy for her developing sense of empathy. Lena has geographic mobility and diasporically confronts her Greek heritage, represented as a historical rift between families that a romance could resolve generations later. Bridget at soccer camp in Mexico claims to play forward on multiple fronts and comes from a family with a history of mental health issues, her mother committing suicide. Carmen sees her heritage as marking her body as different, but seeks a closeness to a white father who left her. In a world where desire is existing to reproduce itself, and unshakable bonds are valorized, friendship appears as genes
Everything's
impregnated with hope.
Even my sweaters
Kiss the future.
is short and small.
Kiss the future. Oh, the pants stop fitting. Monica reads. told me he's staying under the key mode until the next stage. He walked out holding a cooling glass. He's talking to his sister again, and that's a good thing. Frank thinks it's good to exercise closeness to family, but isn't sure why. Because they're losing family members like flies. Maybe it's a nasty disaster in his death. Similar closeness to relations. So when he's called on to console friends, he can empathize. Relate. I asked Frank to take care of the production of the glasswork. He likes Ghent as a city I've never been. When we met, he gave me a CD where the album title was his name. The singer wasn't him. We used the jewel disc as a coaster, sliding glasses across his counter. My mother hangs old CDs like a mobile in our back garden off a trellis to stop birds from eating her plants. They glint light, but to me, never stop looking like exactly what they are. What must they look like to birds? They said to Frank in the studio, "See how the glass is made? Your presence is a sign that traditions are needed. Embodied knowledge, expertise, skills will live on. To see how glass is blown is to understand what it is composed of. I interject that it's a bit like raising and killing the animal that you would put on the table." He says, "Yeah, sure." But he would hesitate before aligning it with industrial farming practices. The eyes have altered lenses for material production, though, and there's a continuity in historical aesthetics glass-wise. I nod. I'm talking to him from Cologne, where I've just seen pretty extraordinary works of 3rd century Roman glass, technical feats not replicable today, and it's possible that Cologne is the birthplace of mold-blown glass. Material dexterity, molten, and then firming, and then cooling. These are the Columba, a collection museum housed in a Petisamthor temple built like a shrouding cloak around excavated ruins of a Gothic church. I hear you have to be of Christian faith to be employed there. Material values to the fore. I spent hours reading film reviews on a website which also summarizes the spiritual, sexual, violent, profane, substance use and other negative elements of films existing to guide and guard so-called family values. Commentaries on how Christian paraphernalia is co-opted to become superstitious, lucky charms, emotionally significant rather than a tether to Jesus. The glass on a framed picture of brother and sister cracks, and the church-financed Hilary Duff's star vehicle Raise Your Voice. Crying, she has been emotionally gathering objects in her powder-blue veloured arms to hastily pack and leave. Give up. And a cross pendant that was her brother's falls to the carpet, chain snapped. Hilary Duff plays Terry Fletcher, a teenage small-town singer-songwriter accepted into a prestigious big-city LA summer conservatoire on the basis of a compelling video testimony put together by her brother Paul, who devoted films and edits footage of his younger sister, her biggest advocate and believer. While alive, he is often mediating her performance with his gaze through camera, appearing and shot through reflective mirror glass. The figure behind the camera is the guardian angel, who should never be forgotten. She cracks and crumbles, breaking the chain of the cross when shown herself through his lens for the first time. Paul dies, with a paternal tiff in the air, having poured lighter fluid into his graduation barbecue. Terry blames herself for his death, having snuck him out from being grounded to use a graduation present of tickets to see a Christian rock band, and then getting slammed by a drunk driver on their way home. Departure, pleasure, transcendence, modest excessives, limited pleasure. It's a strange portrait of grief and guilt with bouts of PTSD triggered by spotlights. The brother as guardian angel is eventually behind the spotlight too. You see, the victim must become the violent in order for Terry to transcend her fate. Diffusion of who and where religion and belief appears in or as. Frank is leaving the Barlow Cathedral in Ghent, having tried to peer through antechambers to find the celebrated Van Eyck polyptych. It's either being restored or in a special display to separate the tourist gaze away from religious revelry and profit from it. The brothers Van Eyck famously used the likeness of citizens to populate the polyptych, the direct casting to eternally locate the church's altarpiece and Flemish depiction, stolen tunnels, the stolen lost church. As opposed to for a theatrical production outside the church, which casts from the city's population to claim representation, contemporary polyptych with religious and racial diversity, Frank says, yeah, this focus on visibility, what's it actually seen? Deploying identity for applause? How much of that media coverage is focused on the infrastructure, on the facility, on the lighting, on the costume? I tell Frank he can't really comment on the show without seeing it. He tells me he's sick of cities celebrating their contents rather than discontents. It perpetuates the sycophantic obsession with internal history and pride. I'm a woman who appears as a child. Was Raise Your Voice the last film where Duff appeared with Poppy Fat, a swan song as adolescent? She became almost gaunt, smoky-eyed. Did you understand that there are songs through the film? She has a clean vocal tone. Was in the film putting a monitor for overcoming her fear and pushing through, co-writing with an older, emotionally distant brain what she sees. You're not here to say what you always need to say, but it's written in the sky tonight. I won't give up and I won't break down. Ruined by moonlight. Frank is always surprised when he finds himself attracted to a body that is not gin perfect, taut or toned. A perplexing repetition in the film is of the rehearsal of Handel's Messiah, in which Terry moves from being the discordant interrupter, struggling to sing the correct Western tonal pitches, until she scores the solo by finishing the Handel passage with an improvised poem of a few couplets. Individually, rather than improvisation, is being valorized, or pop appeals, or innocent cells. And it is clear by the discipline of other pupils in the school that Terry is not there on the basis of any technical ability, rather a personal charisma, or brother packaged passion on video. Indeed, her lack of exceptional skill in this competitive environment is deeply perplexing. We're talking about technical ability. Frank is not sure what form the glass objects would take, but we agree the important thing is that they are formed from pumice, porous, abrasive, volcanic rock that is also used to grind down glass. The final form will depend largely on the material, which, like Duff's rendition of Handel, like the stakeholder producers on the film, will inflect its behavior and appearance. Fragility of glass, delicacy matters. What can we do with the shards? What can we do with bracing something down? Small towns, big cities. I miss Frank. This is my way of bringing him into my life. Leaving church, deconsecrating the body, Terry, with her mother and aunt, chose to deceive her father, to pursue this dream summer school, to stop singing from grief, bird songs shimmering in and out, replicating forms, likenesses of sonic objects, jeweled discs, guardians, guardian angels. Rita doesn't consider her parents intellectual, and she's glad that they don't either. Rita grew up with a father who was willing to let her play music she wanted to listen to in the car. Remember, it was Ella Fitzgerald playing when she was questioned about the images of girls kissing each other that had come out of the printer on the home network, discovered one morning. The catalog sexy underwear she stole from the department store and hid. Occasional wear. Paying with pocket money for a selection of boutique chocolates from the food hall, to be consumed with a paring knife at the dinner table with her family. Consumed as a small morsel, but like a pallet of morsels. Their preferred cuisine is all you can eat. Now back at the homestead, Rita notes a slight fussiness, cobwebs. It's a lunar new year, so one doesn't squeak, or the coming prosperity will also fall out the door. A suckling pig has been sitting in a rice cardboard box for the last half day. Unbutchered, glassy skin, glazed crisp. A flash centerpiece for a banquet surrounded by chocolates, tangerines, pistachios, rum tea. The only friend Rita has invited is Trish, who understands it as a potluck. So Trish has prepared a potato dauphinoise early to the party. She sets her dish on the counter near the pig box. Thinly sliced potatoes cooked in a garlic-infused cream with Gruyere cast down and now beads of condensation from the foil cap. Trish joins Rita in her childhood bedroom. They listen to new music together. The afternoon sunlight is sharp through Venetian blinds. They lie on the bed, still thinking about that pig in the cardboard box. Suckling the pig, flesh soft, skin crisp. I don't want to think about it. Why are Rita's parents asking about when she's gonna have a baby and settle down? She thought that they understood that she didn't believe in reproduction in that way, but like her interest in women, that had been interpreted as an attack on her parents' relationship. Did a decade without talking close the closet door on Rita again? Tell me about your apartment, so you won't forget it. So I remembered how you wanted me to. Steep shallow stone steps lead from the pavers on the street, unnatural compounds, but that appears normal. It's from the street that you see a laser-cut disc which evokes Spider-Man's face. It is rare to notice this from the inside for you, and at night you look up to see if it is turned into a leaf against the light of the living room. That means someone else's home. You arrived home from the big city to a friend dragging out his repacked huge white plastic suitcase that he dragged up the carpeted spiral staircase upon arriving, it falling, crushing him like a spider. Booga booga boo. Private humiliation would like memories. The lavatory door and front door can be opened at the same time, like to swing them on their hinges at once with big bump doors. Smoke plume. There is a framed poster in the lavatory which reads, "It's an emergency." Sitting smoking on a toilet seat, clamshell shut until reaching the butt of a cigarette and flashing it. Blowing smoke at the front door into the spiral staircase bubbles. A bookshelf with fused collections and papers with an unused TV screen with HDMI cable and adapter coming out of it. It's good Austrian design. Someone else is home when you smell smoke. Smoking in bedrooms with a window open, the breeze pushing the scent into the stagnant rest of room. A room with tiles that almost never seem to get washed, floor mats veneered. Bird net on a small balcony, but still the birds fly in and shit on the table, which hooks to the railing. A scarred chrome waste bin with a broken pedal, an assortment of containers for recycling, grip, woven basket, clear plastic cups, large reusable shopping bag, high countertops, too high oven with grill, and cracked glass doors, vacant light fixtures. Fatbergs on the cities, wet wipes, toilet paper, and grease. He wanted to confront her about where the sandwich toaster went, to something like humiliate her, since the most humiliating thing you can think of is eating. You keep struggling with consuming, and mostly think it needs to get out, uncertain output, how is it coming out? The sun is setting. Other guests arrive. Observational humor, warmth, and accusations based on the body as it passes through the threshold. Shoes are taken off. Guests step into slippers, bearing plates. Charlotte's web barely belongs to the functional ownership of the spider when she weaves words to save the pig, Wilbur. The book directs attention to the ambiguous and attributed authorship, the role of the craftsman as executor, and the dialectic of subject and signal. Charlotte's performance of relationship is naturally highly networked and dependent on the emotional ecology of the barn. It is after surveillance that Charlotte the spider chooses to befriend a young estranged pig named Wilbur, who survived first by a fit of indignant passion from a farmer's daughter, Fern, who indelicately equates youth across species in the runt's defense. Fern gradually becomes deliberately distanced from her youthful tether. The narrator says that she becomes instead interested in boys, an appearing adult. I have known so many ferns. I have known so many ferns. I have known so many ferns. Rita, what is innocent love? Nature and fate are uneasy in this fiction. Destiny changes, destiny fulfilled. The ability to listen across species. Wilbur squealing wishes to be told another story before sleeping. You know, to be told something and question where the knowledge or ability is inherited from, a spinet, an etymology, a name, the trust in authorities to recognize your importance. The sequence of words that Charlotte weaves into the web are plucked from a pop collage, words from trash boxes, hearsay, some big, terrific, radiant, humble. The technique and vision remain mysterious. Charlotte works unobserved. Under the words, Wilbur the pig shifts his expressions and contorts his body to accentuate and become the words set in the spider trap above his head. The morning fog moves in to dampen and glitter adieu the spider's thread. With the institutional recognition of a prize at the fair, Wilbur's worth as a differentiated body exceeds his desirability on a festive table. Charlotte the spider dies of age and exhaustion, having laid hundreds of eggs. Why did you do this all for me? Wilbur asks. I don't deserve it. I've never done anything for you. You have been my friend, replies Charlotte. That in itself is a tremendous thing. I wove my webs for you because I liked you. After all, what's a life anyway?
So those are filled with
We're
vegetables
born,
word.
we live a little while, we die. A spider's life can't help being something of a mess. With all this trapping and eating flies, by helping you, perhaps I would try to lift up my life a trifle. Heaven knows anyone's life can stand a little of that. Wilbur becomes devoted to the sack of eggs that Charlotte leaves behind, burdening the arachnid youth with his expectation. The role of the exception. Outstanding, hyperbolic, worth speaking about. Chinese New Year, we guess it is. A list of achievements burning in firelight, spit, roast, red envelopes of cash as tidings. The light is very even in the room as the night progresses. We're not interested in ambience. Julia Roberts voices the spider in the film version. I learned a few things from Pretty Woman. The book begins, where's Papa going with that axe? Rita turns to Trish. She's talking to someone else. I don't know.